Hey everyone. Okay, so I have been doing some videos on calming people down and what to do about not getting sucked into the fear spiral and many other things like this. And I also have been getting asked a lot since, I'm an astrologer. It's like the main thing that I'm doing here in this moment of life. People asking what's going on with the astrology, what's going on with the astrology. And so there's obviously tons going on with the astrology, and if you're interested in astrology, I'm sure you've read some stuff about, like, Saturn and Pluto both conjunct in Capricorn, and then other things going on. And in a incredibly mild way, I did sort of already do a video on 2020, just in general. Specifically, it was January 2020, but it was like setting the tone for the rest of the year. So if you want even more than what I'm going to share in this video, you can go look up the Astrological Energies of January 2020 video that's on YouTube that I did. But today, I wanted to go ahead and do something a little bit different. So there are multiple different branches of astrology, which I'm sure most people who are into astrology at all, you have heard of Western astrology. Most people that watch my videos, you're into Western astrology. It's also, there's many different branches of that. So it's like there's evolutionary astrology, which is, if you would squish everything that I do into a box, I would probably say I would fit into the evolutionary astrology box. There's psychological astrology. This is just in the Western realm, there's many things there. Box number 1, Western astrology. Box number 2, Vedic astrology. Indian astrology. So they have an entirely different chart system. It's a square, it's a rectangle, not a circle. All similar planets. They don't do the modern planets, but like similar planets. But then the meanings are a bit more. I would say they're a bit more rigid. Maybe that's the wrong word for it, but like there's far less like, oh, you have this whole big range of experience that can happen. It's much more like this will happen, which is very comforting to some. And so if you're really into like the predictive astrology, like just tell me what I need to do, what's happening in January, what's happening in July, what's my aunt's coming this day, what should I do, or whatever, you can definitely do that in Western, but the skill of that, like answering, like give me answers, that's much more of a Vedic thing. Western, it's much more of a psychological thing. It's much more of a therapy, which is why I particularly like it, because I can give answers to an extent, but it's always going to be through my filter, and it's entirely based on the consciousness of that person. So what would help someone who is at this level of consciousness will be really triggering and painful to this person, and what would help this person won't help this person at all. So it's I don't like to decide when people are where they're at. So I just help them through the therapy of it, and then it helps them, they can find their own answer, which hence why I find astrology empowering and healing. Anyways, and then the point of this video, I'm sorry, I'm like once again sidetracking myself. A third of many, but a third branch of astrology is called mundane astrology. And what mundane astrology is instead of looking at individual charts, you are looking at countries' charts. This is the astrology of governments and countries and huge movements of time. It's way, 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 way zoomed out astrology. So it's not personal. It's not personal astrology. It's not the kind of like therapy astrology that I particularly vibe with. It's much more like detached, I guess. It's very much the astrology that like the king's astrologer would do back in the day, and people who are Renaissance, people in this current moment, like my husband, who's like a genius in many realms. He loves mundane astrology because you can see this big giant picture. So today I wanted to do a little bit of this particular astrology, specifically with the birth chart of America. So how America as a country is, what it's going through right now, and then also what it will continue to go through and slash kind of has been going through. And the purpose of this, and again, this is sort of a video for Americans, which most of my audience is, but If you're not, just so you know, this is not worldwide things. This is specifically America's astrological forecast. And so the benefit of this is that you can kind of see the trends of what's happening and then make more sense of it. Like in a previous video that I just talked about, it's like the end all be all healing anything is meaning. Suffering equals I don't have meaning. I don't have meaning for this experience. I don't know why this happened. This doesn't make any sense. Once it makes sense on any level, and there's millions of different ways you can make meaning, once you've found the meaning center, it's less suffering. It makes sense enough that you can categorize it into some sort of like, okay, I get why this is happening. It's no longer an unknown. It's no longer this terrifying, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. We as humans need that. And so I wanted to offer that to you today to help give you some of that meaning, give you some of those whys, why this is all happening, and then also give you a timeline for how and when and why and where and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so at the very beginning of this video, if I figured out the tech for it, I should have a chart of America's birth chart. And I personally read in whole signs. So that's been I'm going to do another video in a couple days here of different house systems. Because my God, that's another question I get a lot of. Like, what's the right house system? I don't understand why there's so many. How can they all be right? I will explain all of that. But for the short and not have every single video I do be like hours long, I'm going to not talk about that right now, and I'm just going to preface that I'm going to be reading in whole sign. All house signs all house systems are beautiful. They're all accurate. They just have their different niches. I like the niche of whole sign. So that being said, so anyways, the image of the chart is on the beginning of this video, hopefully, and if not, I will literally just hold it up here because that's how I roll. The no tech anything, which I'm gonna have to up my tech so intensely now, which is cool. I need to, but yeah, I'm pretty low tech with it all. So I will be reading from this piece of paper as I go through this mundane astrology chart reading for America. So what's going on with America? Okay. Well, maybe I should first start off with, what does this even mean? What is this? So every one of us has a birth chart because, boom, in this moment I was born. So, this different astrologers have different things. Normally it's the first breath. So it's like first breath moment, boom. I am now in the third dimension. I am now playing this human game. I now have a birth chart. I now have a map that I can play with. So we all understand that in a personal sense. Like, I have a birth chart, you have a birth chart, every person's got a birth chart. Now, to add just some bigger consciousness to this, everything that is born has a birth chart. So the first date of you and your partner, your relationship chart, that's the birth date of your relationship. So hence it is the chart for your relationship. The first moment that you get your website going and you put it out online. So it's like, I am now a business. Boom, that's your business's birth chart. And you can look at it the same way that you can a personal chart. You can look at the transits, you can look at things happening to it. So countries also have a birth. And oftentimes this birth is because of the moment a constitution is signed, the moment the land is claimed, whatever the country has decided is its beginning moment. So for America, it was the signing of the Constitution. That's like the moment of birth for the United States. And for those that are curious, if you're also astrologers and you would like to look up this chart as well, and I will say that there's some debate on the time for it, but through my husband's research, through my research, through just, as you watch the transits, you're like, oh, yep, there you go. We have both deeply resonated with the Sagittarius rising. There's also another option that is 12 hours later. That is a Gemini rising. If that doesn't make any sense to you, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about that at all. I'm getting into some rather I don't want to say higher level, but just like more left-brained, I guess, more left-brained astrology than what I normally talk about, because I am a Pisces and I like resonating with things emotionally. But this is a very left-brained video in that sense. So anyways, if you're wanting to look up the chart that I'm using is for the birth date of July 4th, 1776, 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That is America's birth chart. Okay, so in this birth chart, so I think I'll read this in a similar way that I would do a regular video. I'll just like real quick go into the three biggies, and then the kind of enter the transits that are happening right now, which is mainly why I wanted to do the video. So, so so first off, just the three biggies. So the three biggies, but what I mean by that are the ascendant, the sun, and the moon. So how the thing, and I should preface here, the thing about reading a big chart, like a country or, a corporation or, something like that, because there's so many people involved, you're dealing now with the average consciousness and the average decisions made versus personal consciousness and personal decisions made. So if you want to think about it in a way, it's almost like there's ever so slightly less free will in a government, country, corporation, mundane chart. And each of the things in the chart still can mean what, if you are a Western astrologer, if you are in any sort of a evolutionary psychological vibe, you're using it for therapy type of energy. All of those meanings that you currently have with the planets are accurate. And there's a couple of additional meanings to each of the planets if you're looking at it from the filter of mundane. So here's a few of those things. And I will say, my husband is the one who is the full expert in all of this. I'm giving you a taste of this to the amount that I find it useful to know this stuff. So, know that there is so much more that I am talking to you about today with mundane astrology. It is literally an entire branch of astrology. It would be like me doing like an hour video on Vedic astrology. It's like, obviously I'm not going to cover much. So just know that. But I'll like introduce you to it a little bit here. So if you're looking at a country's chart, the moon, besides showing how the country deals with emotions, how what is emotionally comforting to a country, like all the normal moon stuff, the moon also shows the people. So it's like the collective, like the main body of people of a country is the moon. The sun shows, if it is a country that has, a royalty thing, the sun shows the royalty, king, queen, that kind of energy. Or it can also show just the main purpose, like what's the goal. And you can go into goals with, to some extent, the nodes and the MC as well, for sure. But like mundane, we're just talking kind of like huge picture here. So you can kind of think about it as what's the main life force energy, and then also what's the goal, which is normal. Any other form of astrology would agree with you that that's the definition of a sun. Saturn has to do with like the body of government, the laws, how they deal, how the particular country, what the rules are in the country. And then Mars shows like the military and the defensive actions on top of power and drive and what you want and all the regular Mars things. And then Mercury shows like the communication. Obviously, that's what Mercury does. But like the newspapers, the media, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so first off here, and let me see if I can way low tech this and like actually show you the chart. Is that possible? Maybe. Maybe. Let's see. I'll try and hold real still for a second. Okay. We'll see if that works. So going into the three biggies with, my main therapeutic filter of astrology, and then like adding a little bit of this mundane tint to it. Um, so America's sun is in Cancer, July 4th, and it's in the eighth house. Um, and the interesting thing about that is that, and again, remember that in mundane, you're sort of averaging out. So if there's many, 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 in this current mode that we are in this dimensional reality that we are currently in, we have decent number of conscious people active and doing their thing, but we have a lot of very unconscious people as well. And so the average is going to, because I tend to kind of like rose colored glasses things of like, hey, this is the potential, let's do it. And I'll still give you that, but know that it's like, you kind of have to tone it down a little bit with mundane, because it tends to be more of the average of the not quite secure. It's quite so secure. So going with that, so like eighth house Cancer sun means that it's, as a country, like as our goal of a country, like this main energy that we really, really, really want to be and like have as our goal is, I want to be nurturing. Like we want to be helpful. We want to be caring. So, we're going out and sending food to countries. We're wanting to like, oh, you're in a war. Let me come help, da 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 da. But it's in the eighth house. So it's like, here, I want to help you. And then you owe me. It's like all got the strings attached with all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure everyone who's ever been helped by America has felt the strings, which is why people are like very back, like love or hate or like, all that kind of stuff with America. Because if it was like a Cancer sun in the fourth, we would probably, I sadly, I don't have Canada's chart off the top of my head, but like, it'd probably be a bit more Canadian. Everyone would be like, Canada. Like, we love them. I don't know. I don't even know if that's how the whole world does it, but all the countries that I've ever visited definitely have a better viewpoint and like soft sense towards Canadians versus Americans. Even though they're also a Cancer sun, like, because they're July 1st, I believe, is their Independence Day. And so, but they're in a different house, and so the eighth house adds that bit of like, you better watch out. I'll be nice, but you better watch out. I'm keeping tabs. Like, I got the purse strings on whatever I'm helping you with. So, I'm helping you, but like, I own you. So that's just kind of an interesting thing about America as a personality in general. And then this particular time, the 5:10 p.m. that I liked you to read the chart with, puts us as a Sag ascendant, which also completely makes sense. The beginning of America, the majority of America still has that like cowboy personality that like, it's up to me, I want to do it my way. I want to do it like I am free. Freedom is a huge, like, I'm supposed to be free. That's even, I think, very strongly what anyone on any level of consciousness would identify, America as, is like, this is the realm to be, free in theory. But it's the should, it's the personality, it's the thing that you, like, this is who I'm supposed to be, because that's really what your ascendant is your learned personality of, if I do this, then I get love, then I get appreciation, then, this is what I'm supposed to be doing in the world. This is how I do human, like that's what your ascendant is. This is like how I squish myself into enough of a human to have a personality and like interact with people. But personally, we all have different ascendants, of course, but like as a country, that's the should. And so what's particularly interesting, if you are American, if you have a Gemini ascendant or a Sagittarius ascendant, because that's the polarity point, they're opposites of each other, you like get how to do the social thing in America a bit better than other ascendants. This is kind of veering off from mundane for a second here, but it's kind of a fascinating thing that I've noticed over time with, if the, like, whatever the country that you're in is ascendant, whatever the country you're in ascendant is, that's the collective should. That's the social norm. That's like, if you do this, then you're acting appropriate. And so if you have a Sag ascendant, people will appreciate that, because in America, if you're American, Because in America, the should is, be free. Go do your thing. Like, go be fun and exciting. Like, and think about this in like, because we're all like, oh, but shoulds and like the powers that be telling you what to do. Think about this more in like you're in a social setting. You're in like a party kind of a thing. What do you feel like you're supposed to be doing? You feel like you're supposed to be entertaining, wise, insightful. You know, ask any American what you're supposed to be in a social situation, and it's probably that. Whereas, like I could be wrong, but I believe England is a Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn sun, Capricorn ascendant. I forget, but it's a much different energy. If you are, as any American that has traveled to various different countries has known, you being you, the things that work when you're in an American group of people, go to a different country and they're like, why are you so chatty? Like, why do you need to, show off so much? Like, what are you doing here? And it's because they have a different should. Their should as a country is different. So you might vibe with different people that you meet in that country because, you just personally all have similar ascendants. But collectively, each country has its own should along with our own individual shoulds. That's like, oh my God, that's such a side tangent. But anyways, so America has a Sag ascendant. There you go. And then finally, the moon of America is Aquarius. Aquarius third. So this is particularly interesting. So, one, the moon has a hard time being in Aquarius because Aquarius is very detached. It's wanting to see the big picture. It's wanting to, not really bother with like the mushy gushies. It doesn't want to get stuck. It sees emotions as like this pit that's just gonna like stick to it and that it can't get free. And it wants to just be inspired. It just wants to be a part of the big picture and be like inspired and big and open as much as possible. And so oftentimes, and this is actually true for all air signs in general, what happens with an air moon is that they try and just think their way out of emotions or like convince themselves they're not actually having them, which obviously doesn't really work. And so there tends to be a lot of repression of emotions, specifically for Aquarius moons. And this is personal and this is collective. So this is, as a country, America is a very emotionally repressed country. But it's the thing about that Aquarius moon though is that they don't know it because they're just very they are up looking down. So instead of feeling the emotions, they're like, oh, I think I might be angry. I'm not sure. Maybe I could be. And then it's like, oh, off to something else, done with that thought. And so, but emotions, like, they need to be felt. They don't really go away until they're felt. And so as a collective, America is a country that has a really hard time actually feeling its emotions, and not just like, okay, we're done with that. Done with that. Yep, that's all healed. Done. Gone. Very Aquarius moon. And benefits of Aquarius moon are these people can, individual people and countries can if done accurately, if done well, can heal like done, boom, it can actually work that way. But oftentimes they're not actually done with it. They're not done with the emotion yet. They just want to be. So that's kind of like the three biggies of America. So America as an identity really wants to be helpful and kind and nurturing, but, kind of has that like strings attached, kind of like overbearing mother kind of vibe to it. Once, genuinely likes to see itself as like a visionary and a big picture thinker, Aquarius moon. That's what it's comforted by. But can definitely be emotionally repressed and not actually feeling and dealing with emotions. They're just like, okay, we're done with that. And then has the should of, I'm supposed to be inspiring. I'm supposed to be wise. People are supposed to look up to me. I'm supposed to be like, this cowboy, this like that's all very Sagittarius, this like freedom seeker. Don't fence me in, very American. Okay, so I just wanted to do that real quick so we even have some context of what we're talking about. But like that's sort of America as a bubble, since its birth. But the main transit that I wanted to talk about today with America is that America currently is going through its Pluto return. So, if you are into astrology at all, you've probably heard of a thing called a Saturn return. So, each of us goes through a Saturn return about every 30 years. So, 28 through 30, age 28 through 30, you have your first Saturn return. And then again, a couple more times if you live through them. Not that you'll die, but if you live long enough, you'll have a couple other Saturn returns because it's every 30 years. But the thing about any return, so I bring this up because people have heard about returns most likely, but what it is, you're born, snapshot in time, all the planets frozen. That's your particular map for your life. Let's say that Saturn is here natally. And so then it takes Saturn 30 years to come back around. Well, 20, 29, 30 years. And so then when it gets back to its same spot, so it's like it's been 30 years and, you have Saturn at 12 Capricorn natally. When Saturn gets back around the 12 Capricorn, that's called a Saturn return. And what that means is that your own personal lessons now line up with the collective lessons. So it's like internal, shoulds match outternal shoulds. Like and what the purpose of that particular thing is because Saturn, it's a Saturn return for this example. It's like Saturn's all about maturity. So it's like, hey, mature, get your shit together. And so all planets, and I specifically bring up Saturn entirely just as a reference point. America's not going through a Saturn return, but I bring it up because most people have heard of that before. So it's that same energy of like, whoa, okay, I'm supposed to get something figured out. And so Saturn's very obvious because it's Saturn. It's the manifester. It's the most real planet. But all planets have a return, and that's just basically the revolution of the planet. So Jupiter has a return every 12 years. Uranus has a return every 84 years. Each planet has its own thing. And the interesting thing about looking at mundane astrology is that you can have transits that don't affect a person because they're so big and so slow. One of these being Pluto returns. So Pluto, here in your natal chart, it takes 250-ish years to get back around to its spot. So obviously a person's not living to be 250, but a country could. And the thing about a Pluto return is that same intense energy of you're matching back up, and then it's kind of like extra intense because the internal and the external are the same. That's what's happening in America right now. And I did not explain that at all, and I'm going to massively dissect that so it makes sense to people. So let me just start off with America's natal Pluto. So again, I read in whole sign. So America's natal Pluto is in the second house in Capricorn. And so what Pluto in Capricorn means natally means that the thing that's almost to the point of obsession for someone, that's what Pluto really is the thing that is you are obsessed with, specifically because you're terrified of it. So it's I have to control this, I have to get this under control. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I can't let this get out of control. This is scary to the point that I need to just clamp it down. That's how people deal with their Pluto. But what Pluto actually is wanting to do is to burn away anything false. We all try and live in these, we're putting ourselves together, and it's it doesn't quite fit, but I guess it's okay, or I kind of need this just to have something there. Pluto is burn everything down except for the needed. I don't care if you're naked on the street afterwards. It's I don't even care. All of the false goes. Because Pluto really just wants absolute truth. It does not put up with bullshit. It does not put up with sugarcoating. It does not put up with like, oh, I meant it, it was okay until then. Like, no excuses. Pluto has zero compassion. But it's not just out to hurt you. Like, it's specifically wanting to get down to that root truth. And if it has to burn everything else away, out of the way, so that it can get down to it, it has no qualms with doing that. It's a very intense planet, and it is very healing if you'll let it. But the thing about Pluto is you cannot keep anything that is not right, that is not true, that is not of absolute pure essence, like the deepest, purest truth. It will just burn everything else away. And as I'm sure you know, there's many things about America that are probably not in deepest, purest truth. And so Pluto coming back around, transiting Pluto, coming back around and touching up, like it's been 250 years, touching back up with its natal placement of Pluto, means that that particular energy is on fire. Like, everything that is not of highest and purest truth is getting burned away. As a government, as a country, and as all the smaller circles inside, family, job, person, everything. If you're an American, if you're anyone, it is happening to some extent. It's happening to a huge extent for everyone, but it's specifically happening for a giant extent for Americans, because not only is all the transiting stuff happen of Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter and Mars and everything for this moment, like they're all gathering together, all of that is gathering on top of America's natal Pluto. America's natal Pluto is at 27 degrees Capricorn. So here's how transits work. So Pluto and all, like Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, all those really, really slow they're called they're called generational planets. Man, I'm now spacing on what the actual term of it is. But anyways, the newer planets, the ones that have been discovered since the telescope. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. These planets, when they transit, are interesting because they're so slow that even though they're really intense, it's almost like we don't really notice them. Oh, my kitten just woke up from his nap. Here you go. Oh, Jean-Luc. You don't really notice them as they're coming around. It takes quicker planets to come in and join the pile for you to really notice them. So Pluto has actually been within range of this Pluto return moment for many years. So it went into Capricorn in 2008. So it's been in the sign of Capricorn for quite a while now. But it's been within range probably for like the last 3, 4, 5 years. And what in range means is like it's a degree of orb. So it's like how many degrees away is the transit from the natal. But so it's been in the background. It's been like, putting the dynamite in the first floor of the building kind of a thing. But honestly, if just Pluto transits, like if you're only dealing with Pluto and you're not dealing with any other planets involved, transiting planets, it definitely will shift and change something, but it's almost like it's so slow and so like hidden and subversive that if you look at, if someone would just look at it and be like, okay, 100 years ago versus now, whoa, that was a huge change. I don't know if you would be able to be like, and here's the day it happened. But if you start adding the other planets in, that's when you do start, okay, and here's the day it happens. So Pluto was there, and the technical actual Pluto return doesn't happen until 2020. So even though we're in really intense times, like we are at the peak of it right now, but it doesn't actually end. Like the full, dynamite blowing up the first floor building, total purge of everything that's unnecessary and fake and sugar-coated and held together by duct tape. The full purge does not actually end until the beginning of 2023. So we're in it still for a while. But the intensity and like the scariness and the oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like this, all this stuff. This is only happening this year. Um, so anyways, there's comfort there. And there's moments that are, it's not like even the entire year. So like the thing with, the virus or other big things like this, the purge has actually been happening for quite a few years. It's just, it's all underground. It's all secret. So things are just secretly happening that, are kind of quiet, definitely kind of rocking the boat a little bit, but like, they're all kind of, that's very Plutonic. That's very Pluto running through stuff. So our government structures, so we're dealing with America, our government structures have been shifting and changing because Pluto going through Capricorn is all about, what doesn't work in the government, what doesn't work in these big structures, these big corporations. It's been going through and like cutting stuff out and causing chaos so that it can shake it up, because Pluto is not above just like catalyst. It's like, okay, well, I wanted it to go here, it's not quite going there, let me just blow the whole thing up and then we can start over. Very Pluto. So first transit that hit this Pluto return, Pluto still even got a couple degrees to go, so it's like that's base level 1. Then add in Saturn. So Saturn is this manifestor energy. It makes things real. It is the structure creator. So, Saturn is absolutely the thing that's like, we're doing this, it will happen, done. And that's at its best. At its worst, Saturn is very narrow. It's like, you get to do this. You don't get to do any of the rest of this. You get to do this. I like to describe Saturn times through this analogy. So it's like, imagine like the rest of your life, your normal life, is you have like this hallway and there's 10 different doors and they're all open and you can just kind of go in whatever room you want. During a Saturn transit of any type, for the area that Saturn is transiting in the chart, the house and sign and planets involved, imagine that in that particular area, all the doors close but one. And so you can, like, I used to go into this room and I have something in there, I need to get out. It's like, it doesn't matter. They're all closed. And so if you're not really aware of where you're supposed to go, it's going to feel really restrictive and you're going to butt your head up against the wall. And you're going to feel like, oh my God, this is like so limiting and frustrating. Because that's, the negative words for Saturn, limiting and frustrating. But the thing about Saturn is it's actually clarity. It's like, hey, you've only got one option. Like, the only thing available to you is what I want you to go do. So I like to think about Saturn times as what is working? What is like the one thing that is working, or the one option that is still available? And know that if, like we're in this moment, you're in a Saturn time, that's all you got. That's what you're doing. That's what Saturn wants you to do. And it makes it infinitely easier to just, go into that flow, to not fight the resistance, because you can't win with Saturn. Saturn's going to win. It's like, just do what Saturn wants you to do. And, it is you. It's like, you put this birth chart, you decided to be born into America. You decided to have this particular collective be a part of your own consciousness, human game experience. So it's like, don't blame Saturn. Like, he is one of the placeholders so that you can have this human game experience. And this is the human game that we all wanted to play, which is actually a very exciting game if you can, get there, which is very possible. It's doable. Yeah, you'll get there eventually if you're not already there. Okay, so Pluto coming in, putting the dynamite at the first floor, clearing stuff out subtly, quietly, destructively. And then Saturn coming in to add to the pile. So now it's obvious. Now it's in your face. Now, instead of someone like with a, the mask on, like in the first floor, setting the dynamite, it's like the doors are wide open and like the boss is helping set the dynamite in the first floor. It's very obvious. Like, Saturn is not a hidden planet at all. It makes things very, like, here. Obvious manifested energy. So Saturn started going into the range of America's Pluto at the beginning of this year. And so at the beginning of this year, started to really amp up this, like, wow, there's a lot wrong with America. Wow, we're really starting to, like, have this be in our face a little bit. And then finally, like, the virus starts, all these different things. There's many, many things that are kind of like adding to the pile of the destructive feeling. It's like, wow, okay, we are really destroying stuff now. It's like we are really, like, economy is going to be different. It's Pluto's like, economy, you're not working right. Burn it down. The way that you structure your daily work life, not working right. Burn it down. It's like just it's got Saturn. It's like Saturn sort of, it's like strongman dude of like, yeah, buddy, okay, you want this done? Cool, let's go do it. But it, like, obviously that sounds really weird and wrong, but like it's for, in a huge perspective, in like you're stepping way, way, way back perspective. The things that are crumbling about America's economy, structure, government, the America thing that's happening, that's shown by the birth chart, everything that's being taken didn't work at its ideal thing. Saturn wants the A+. It's like, you're not doing it right. You brought home an A, not good enough. I want the A+. So there might be a lot of decent things, like, why did this leave? Like, this was good enough. Saturn and Pluto together are not into good enough. So that's kind of this mindset to switch into with it all, is seeing it as so many, like, the human consciousness can't even understand how good it could be. We're still only seeing things from these filters that are, like I gave an analogy in another video of like you're living in this plaster wall. Like, you've got 10-foot ceilings and 10-foot walls, and you're just in this plaster box, and everything's crumbling and crumbling and crumbling, and you're like, no, I need my plaster box. And then when it falls, you look up and you're like, oh my God, I was living in a cathedral. Like, I didn't even know. I'd never even been over there. And so it's actually, you're in this beautiful thing, but you didn't know that you didn't know. And so really and truly, like, that is the mentality to be holding in this moment, is that everything being taken, you lost your job, you have to work from home now, da-da-da-da-da. Like, whatever it is, even if it seemed like it was good, know that there's something even better. And I do actually find, so this is definitely this is happening for everyone, but know that this is particularly potent in America because of this Pluto return vibe. It's hitting something in America's chart, and so it's going to specifically feel even more traumatic and transformative, potentially, if we can make it that way, for Americans, because of the fact that it's going over this natal American Pluto placement. But the mindset to really hold with it is, wherever you're at, it's like, if something's being taken from you, it's going to be replaced by something better. And you have to know that. You have to believe that, because that's really where we're at right now. I mean, Neptune's in Pisces, for God's sake. It's like, that's what we're doing. We are envisioning. We are dreaming. There's no ground to stand on. All of the structures are being destroyed. Pluto and Saturn, Capricorn. Jupiter and Mars joining the party just to make sure it gets done. You can't stand on structures right now. We're moving beyond that. That's holding up the plaster walls. Let the structures that are already falling, let them fall. Don't try and duct tape them back together. And allow something else to take its place. So the potential with all of this energy that's happening right now is that America completely redoes its financial system, completely redoes its government. I should say, I don't know if I've mentioned this already in this video, but and this is definitely something that, I'm not a mundane astrologer. I'm going off of my husband here, but he's a pretty reliable guy. So countries tend to not make it through the same their Pluto return. And what that means is the country is not, like, it basically has done something that has now made it so that it actually has been reborn. Like, it literally has a different chart now because of something that happened. So remember the things that happened to make a birth chart. If you're a country, you sign a constitution. You, you claim land. You are, like, somehow so different that you literally need a new, okay, this is now who we are thing. And that is what happens during a country's Pluto return. So obviously, like, England's been around for thousands of years. But each 250 years, you can even kind of like go back and look, some huge thing happens that no longer makes it so that they are that. They signed a new constitution. They went from this, like, monarchy down to parliament or whatever, some giant thing, so that it's literally a different body of government / different country. So this is what America is going to be doing. And so I definitely would like to, like, rose-colored glasses it and just be like, yeah, it's going to happen really soon. The seeds of it are happening right now. Like, we are in these times of everything that's happening right now is going to lead to a new constitution, America, changing land forms in some way. We, like, secede in this area, we gain new land over here. Some giant thing. But definitely, normally it involves a new, like, document, new constitution, new something that's like, here's who we are now. And that's what we're doing right now. So even though I would like to say, as I was about to say, like, even though I'd like to say that's happening right now, it's starting to happen right now. But I don't think that it'll be complete. So there's different forms of complete. So there's either the complete of, like, here's our new document, or it is complete in the sense of, okay, now we are fully and completely in that new reality. Like, not only have the laws been written, but now we're all living by them. So I don't know which of those two things is with the next date that I'm going to give you, but the whole Pluto return thing ends basically at the beginning of 2023. So that's either, like, if I'm going to predict something, which I don't really like to do predictions that much, but, like, if, take this with a grain of salt because it's entirely based on the collective consciousness and how we choose to go with it all. But I would say that that's either, we signed a new constitution around that time, or we've already signed it and we are now fully embodying that new way of life, that new financial system, that new social system, that new healthcare system, that new da-da-da-da-da-da. The entire identity of America is different. So that's what we're doing right now, okay? So obviously there's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of change, and there's a lot of chaos, and just, I might have said chaos twice. There's so much chaos. Say it 3 times. There's many, many things that make it seem like everything, like the sky is falling, and, just go buy all the toilet paper and, save yourself. Don't. Like, well, if you want, go for it. But, like, that solves nothing. And that's not actually really the point of what's happening. So the point of what's happening is that we are changing. And the change is to, like, what is causing the change / what is being asked of the change is purge everything that is not right for you, for this collective. We are purging selfishness out of fear, for no other reason than out of fear. We are purging massive, like, separateness of how, like, we're not actually, we don't actually affect each other and nothing really matters and you can just do whatever and it doesn't, like, we're just purging this stuff. And that's what's caused all of the things that Pluto is now like, nope, burn that shit down. That's all wrong. That's what caused, those mentalities are what caused that stuff to be built in the first place. So we have to change our mentalities and our beliefs about how this will work in order to create new. So, like, Pluto can keep burning stuff down, but if we're still holding on and, like, trying to keep the plaster walls at bay, like, stay up, stay up. Pluto's like, seriously, dude, I have to burn it down again? Okay, I'll burn it down again, burn it down again, burn it down again. It's like, just let it fall. It's not meant to be there. Anything that's being taken from you right now, like, genuinely, like, hear this from the best, highest, and most loving space. Everything being taken from you right now, there is something better that it wants to be. That's why it's being taken from you. And that's different for everyone. So it might be like someone's just bare bones existing. And so, their better is, hey, you're better than McDonald's. Like, let that go. And then, maybe you're supposed to, like, be working for this person instead. Or maybe it's something entirely different. Like, you were running your own, like, life goal or something. Like, oh my God, like, I spent my entire life, I loved doing this. This is my favorite thing ever. This is my passion. I love everything about this. And it was taken away. It's because you're meant for even more. You're meant for even more. And especially right now, so strongly, like, now, between, I really, like, now until the end of the year, until, like, December 2020. But there's kind of pockets, and I'll maybe talk a little bit about those too. But, like, genuinely allow yourself to know that you might not know. Like, everything that you are kind of in a space of, okay, I like this works for me, I want to do this, here, life goal number 1, life goal number 2, I want this house, I want this job. Like, we are in such big changing times. Allow yourself to add at the end of everything that you're saying and doing, this or something better, because we are moving into the better time, and are limiting thoughts about, like, this is as good as it can get. The plaster walls, the ceiling, it's like, I don't want to, I'm perfectly fine with my 10-foot ceilings. That's the stuff that's going to make all of this a lot harder and last a lot longer. So as much as possible, dissolve. Use this year to dissolve. Watch what's happening right now. The universe is literally like, hey, go sit in your house and think. Don't talk to anyone. It's like, how many different, like, catalysts can the universe do to say, chill, sink in, release, you have no control, so just release. It's like it's made for right now, Think about everything that's happening as if it's in your life right now. Like, the things that are effortlessly in your life. You still have your home. You still have your partner. You still have your cat, whatever. Those are the things that are good. Like, if they're good, they are Saturn approved. They're like A+ things in your life. You have, total gold star on that stuff. And if anything else isn't to that level of effortless flow in your life right now, this or something better. This or something better, And if it starts to crack, this or something better. I'm so excited for the thing that's going to be even better for this. And don't put a timeline on it. It will happen. We are moving in that direction. But we are not only purging the stuff physically in our life that doesn't work for us, we are massively purging inner structures as well. Your belief systems, your thought patterns, your limiting beliefs, your martyr victim mentality about things. That's also having Pluto be like, nope. So as much as possible, as you can kind of, hey, Pluto, no, this one's cool. Like, hey, I got this. Pluto's like, all right, I'm keeping an eye on it though. It's like, you might as well help it along. And what it wants to lead you towards is a deeper sense of peace and a deeper sense of fulfillment. And a lot of us are living lives that are not fulfilling. And even though we might have spent a lot of years trying to get them there, it's like, but I spent so many years trying to get this life to be, this level of job, or like, this much money in the bank, or that kind of stuff. Like, kind of the old cliche is, it's like, on your deathbed, does any of that matter? Like, we're in that moment right now. Like, think about, and I don't mean death, I mean, what matters? That's what you're dealing with right now. And life has given you this beautiful opportunity to quite literally purge everything that is a distraction and is not of your highest self and is not Saturn approved, you know? So watch for the clarity. What's effortless in your life right now? What is working? And allow yourself to maybe not even know how good it actually could be. Give yourself that option on the table of this or something better. I don't even know how good it's going to be. I'm just going to open space and let it fill it. And that's what we're doing the entirety of 2020. So there's kind of a release, kind of a like burp moment, I will say. Starting in a couple of days, March 23rd, 2020, and then going until July. Should get my ephemeris out. Actually, I could. Let me just grab it real quick. This is my preferred ephemeris at the moment for anyone interested. This is what a ephemeris looks like. It's just the planets, what the planets are doing at all times. Yeah, until basically the end of June. So March 23rd until the end of June. Saturn is actually leaving Capricorn and going into Aquarius, but it only ever gets to 1 degree Aquarius. So it's not out of range. It's still very much a part of this big old Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter pile that's going on this entire year of 2020. But with the addition of Aquarius energy involved, it is a little bit more hopeful because Capricorn energy is the weight of the world on your shoulders. You know, it carries the burden, which can be beautiful, and you know, great huge things can be accomplished if you just like buckle down and do it. But Capricorn energy can, you know, again, we're reading a mundane chart here, so you kind of like average out. It's not always the rose-colored glasses version of it. Capricorn energy can very quickly go into martyrdom. It's like, you know, they're carrying the burden. Someone's like, hey, I can get that for you if you want. It's like, no, it's okay. I got it. It's like, okay, Capricorn, do your thing. So it's like that's sort of another piece of this moment that we're in right now. And I say Capricorn energy. I don't mean like Capricorn sun signs, even though that's definitely a possibility. But it's like, this is like Capricorn as an archetype, you know, positive. Like in the words of Stephen Forrest, who's a beautiful astrologer, your great work. Like Capricorn allows you to create your great work, your masterpiece. But then the negatives of Capricorn are martyrdom, you know, unnecessary burden carrying. Everything is too hard, carrying the world on your shoulders for no reason at all. It's like you kind of forget how to be joyful. And so this Capricorn, or the Saturn energy moving into Aquarius, March 23rd and through the end of June, means that there's a bit more inspiration potential. There's a bit more potential for inspiration, being excited about what's to come, looking to the future. My husband Aaron's got so many great, you know, little quips about each of the different archetypes of astrology, and he's got a lovely one that I really find useful to kind of describe the difference between like Capricorn and Aquarius. They're actually both ruled by Saturn. You know, the modern ruler of Uranus is added on top of the Aquarius energy, but like they're both Saturn, so they're both dealing with structures, but Capricorn structures are dealing with past structures. So everything from the past, I'm going to gather it all together, and like that's what I'm basing it on, which is why they're very status quo oriented, because it's like, you know, the status quo is what allows, that's what the past structures have built. But Aquarius is structures oriented, like future. So it's like, I want this to happen, so how can I make that new structure? So it's still wanting to make a structure, but it's much more inspired by what hasn't yet come. And so that's kind of this moment that I feel will probably be very uplifting for many people, is that, you know, that May 23rd through the end of June moment when Saturn just like peeks its head into Aquarius a little bit, is seeing the bright side, if you want to, you know, put it in that silly of a term, but like seeing the potential, seeing the possibilities, getting excited about the big picture, like what could this create all that Aquarius energy. And then also, kind of on a much smaller scale, actually, let me make sure of that before I say that out loud. So Mars is added to the pile in this moment with the Capricorn energy, which is why everyone's just like, fight for the last bit of toilet paper or whatever, like this Martian drive to save yourself is like adding even more insanity to it all. Mars will leave all of that. So it's a slightly less felt thing than a big Saturn transit, but let me just, yeah, that'll be, it'll leave at the beginning of April. So it's only like another week. There's really only another week of like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, for that so many people are feeling. The energy of why it's such a freak out is because so many people have based their lives on structures that aren't sustainable. And it's not their fault, America has built itself on structures that are unsustainable. And, just like if you're doing some sort of house remodel, it's like, you know what? Don't like that kitchen anymore. It's not going to work, we got to get rid of that. It's not like you just have another kitchen, It's, you have to stop cooking for like 2 months and you go out to eat a whole bunch. There's random people in your kitchen and they're like tearing up tile and it's a pit and it's disgusting and there's like dust everywhere. But you have to do that in order to have the new kitchen. So in this big, beautiful way, our collective as America and as a whole world, have decided that we are ready for that new kitchen, which is why this time can be deeply exciting. We are not in end of times. We're not. We are in changing times. And it's not going to take that many years for all of the things that we have all wanted. It's like, oh my God, this is so broken. Why can't we have it be like this? Now is the time to really get clear on what you're wanting that to be. This is no more like hopes and dreams. We are in active manifestation of that. And the more that you can actively get clear on exactly what you want it all to look like for you personally, for your country, for the whole world, and hold to that and be like, this is what's coming. This is what we're doing. The quicker it will come. So it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not even going to happen by the end of the year. It's going to take it a while. But this whole, fear and panic thing, for some, will continue because that's just where they're at. But know that it's a choice to be panicked. You absolutely do not have to be panicked. And everything that's happening right now is clearing out old to make way for new. So just jump on that new train as soon as you can. And I promise you, it is a lot less stressful. Okay. I feel like that was so much random information as usual. I hope that made sense. I hope that was comforting. And I also hope that it maybe made you look at the whole journey of a country on a different timeline as well. So it's like America is doing its shadow work and doing its clearing and doing its healing right now. So we, as many, especially Americans, individually as can help out with that goal as possible, it will make the journey quicker and less intense. But it's not just some, things have a meaning, things have a purpose. There's a purpose to this. And, you can believe that or not believe that, but it serves no purpose to just be in fear and helplessness. It's like, give yourself a meaning. Give yourself a center point to ground yourself around. And then you can be part of the change. You can be part of the helping that helps people move into this new change instead of just, someone's stuck in a sand pit and everyone's just, you're just like pulling people down with you. So, and it's okay to be in fear if you are in fear. No shame at all about that. But just to know that that's by no means the only option of what's going on right now. Okay, I'm going to end it there. I should also real quick mention that my astrology school, which is a 7-month program that I entirely created myself for teaching people how to read birth charts, mostly, specifically in that like therapeutic evolutionary astrology, psychological astrology lens, will be starting April 7th and 8th. So it's a two different options of class times. And so if you're interested in learning astrology at all, it's a very, very, very in-depth program, you know, full, like, you are already obsessed with, you don't have to know that much about astrology to take it, but you do need to be heavily involved with astrology. This is like eat, sleep, and breathe astrology for 7 months. But the goal of the school, the whole purpose of the school, is to teach people how to be professional astrologers. And it's kind of a lovely thing in this moment, since everyone now has to do, you know, online work. It's a nice gig being an online astrologer. So let me help you with that, if that appeals to you at all. And it's also just a really fun, beautiful, connecting time to be a part of that group. So if you're interested in my astrology school, check it out. I'll link it below as well. All right. Once again, a full hour video. I hope this was useful, and let me know if you have any questions, and happy to answer and help as much as possible. So just reach out. Okay.